Hi guys, welcome to week 10 ng Fundamentals of Marksmanship. So, ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon ay tungkol sa CQB or yung tinatawag na close quarter battle. Okay, so ano ba yung close quarter battle na to? So, a direct assault on the enemy to eliminate the threat and minimize collateral damage. Example, kapag may pag may stage taking, mga ganon sa mga uh, sa mga buildings, mga ganon. Okay, kung nasa isang kwarto sila, sa hagdan, yan. Nasa yan, sa mga basta nasa loob sila ng isang building. Okay? So ngayon, ginagawa itong close quarter battle exercise para ma-minimize yung tinatawag na collateral damage. So ano ba yung collateral damage na yan? Okay, so ito yung mga yung sa civilian ito yung mga civilian na civilian casualties na tinatawag sa mga operation ng mga militaries. Okay? So yan, civilian casualties. Okay, that is collateral damage. So na sila na naisali sila sa labanan. Okay, kumbaga namatay o kaya nasugatan, yan yung mga casualties. Pero hindi sila kasali sa target, kumbaga. Okay? Naisama lang sila. Okay? So ngayon, close quarter battle, so meron tayong tinatawag na direct assault. Okay? Direct assault utilize surprise, speed, violence of action, and precise weapon fire to eliminate the threat. Okay? Kumbaga, don't miss, sabi niya. Bawal daw ang magkamali. Okay? So pag sinabi kasi nating direct assault, yan, mabilisan yan. So, kumbaga, surprise o kaya yung mabilisan. So, siyempre, pag sinabi ng pinaka high rank na direct assault, yan. So mabilisan yan. So dapat kumbaga bawal yung magkamali kasi para maiwasan yung collateral damage na tinatawag. So yan, minimize collateral damage. So use minimal explosive and discriminating firing. So no weapon, no shot or no shoot. So ibig sabihin yan, kapag ikaw ay tawag doon yung nagda-direct assault o kaya nag-assault ng isang place, okay? O kumbaga nag-rescue ka sa isang place, yan, kung may hostage taking, yan. So dapat yun na yung isang rules na no weapon, no shoot. So ibig sabihin yan, kapag nakita mo na yung target ay walang armas, so wag mong babarilin yon. Okay? So at i-avoid din yung tinatawag yung mga explosive. So syempre, para maiwasan yung collateral damage kasi pag gumamit tayo ng mga explosive, so ibig sabihin kahit na sino pwede. Kahit na sino pwedeng mamatay, kahit na sino pwedeng maisali doon sa shooting. Okay? So kumbaga wala ka ng sinasantok, mga ganon. So kapag ikaw ay nasa example military, nasa SWAT unit, usually sila yung mga nagda-direct assault, yung mga SWAT unit ng police, di ba? PNP. So ngayon, kapag kasi yan ano din yan, no weapon, no shoot, kumbaga rules nila yan, kumbaga nasa kanila na yan. Okay, nasa kanila yan kung siyempre kung minsan hindi maiwasan. Okay, hindi maiwasan kasi doon sa kung hindi maiwasan yung yung pag yun nga. Pero dapat kapag ikaw ay nasa military o kaya nasa PNP, okay? Meron kang dapat tawagan. Nakalimutan ko yung term. Meron kang dapat mapigil mo yung sarili mo, okay? Na humawak, yun nga may pag nasa pag humawak ka ng baril, wag mong ilalagay yung daliri mo agad sa trigger. Okay, yan. Para maiwasan din. So ilagay mo lang pag ready ka na iputok ito o kaya tapat mo na yung muzzle ng baril doon sa target. Okay? So yon. So kailangan din ng kalimutan ko yung term. Okay, sorry. So ngayon, dito, close quarter battle. Okay, so sino? Yan, who? The members of this unit were selected for their discipline and their ability to think. Yan. The next two, yan. So ito yung mga the decisive action to eliminate the threat and when negotiations have failed, yan. So kailan yan, sino. So sino o dito sa kung sino, yan. Sino yung mga gagawa? Okay? Sino yung gagawa sa operation? Okay? Diba? What? A decisive action to eliminate the threat. So yun yung target o ito yung mission, objectives, diba? And kailan the negotiation have failed. So final option, yun. So direct assault, yan. Yun yung mga yan. So saan? In a confined area where standard techniques can not be used. So ano yung mga standard techniques natin? So yung kumbaga ito kasi may mga special technique kung saan ina-apply kung sa mga example yung mga confined areas, okay, sa mga rooms, okay, sa mga buildings, pero pag nasa open space ka, siyempre magawa mo kung ano yung gusto mong gawin, pero may mga rules pa rin na sinusunod. Okay? So at least sa open space, nakikita mo yung target mo, 'di ba? Pero doon sa mga rooms, sa mga stairs, yan, mahirap kasi yan. So kaya may mga steps, may mga technique na ginagamit. Okay, pagpasok mo pa lang sa room, yan. Example, kapag meron kang tatlo kayo, apat kayo, dalawa o isa ka lang, nag-isa ka lang. So at depende na naman kung ilang tao yung nasa room. Okay? Yung nasa room, nasa hagdan. 'Di ba? O kaya kapag yung isang example, pag pumasok kayo o paano kapag yung pumasok kayo sa sa isang room, yung first man o yung first na kasama mo na pumasok doon sa room is nagmintis, okay? Pumalya or nagmalfunction yung baril niya. Okay? Mga ganon. Yung mga situation na pwede nating gawin, okay, sa mga confined areas. Okay? So, bakit hostages are involved or some must be taken alive? Okay? So, ito yung kumbaga objective natin and rules. Okay? Kung ano yung sino yung papasok, kailan, saan, at bakit. Okay? At saka ano ang objective niya. Diba? So, there are only two major rules. Yan. Ano yung mga rules na na kailangan natin na i-implement during assault. Okay? Yan, no weapon, no shoot. Yan. Pag walang baril, walang magpapaputok. Mga ganon. So yun lang naman yung ano. So muscle awareness and safe operation of your weapon. Yan. So ano yung muscle na tinatawag? Ito yung kumbaga yung dulo ng barrel ng baril mo. Yung dulo ng barrel. Okay? So kung saan siya tutok o yung direksyon ng baril mo. Okay? So awareness and safe operation of your weapon. So paano ba yung safe operation ng baril? Okay? So, yun, number one yun, yung kung saan mo saan yung direction ng muzzle at saka yung trigger. Okay? Yung kamay mo at saka yung trigger. Okay? So dito, unsafe student cannot be trained period. Okay? Yung yung mga unsafe student, yung mga medyo magugulo kaya mga walang disiplina. Okay? Dry and simulation violations. Yan, flutter kick and sit out. And live ammo violation. Yan. So could lead to dismissal from the unit. So kapag gumamit tayo ng live ammunition sa mga exercises, yan. Okay, so bawal 'yun. Okay? So usually kasi lalo na kahit na sa mga hostage taking kung minsan hindi live ammunition yung ginagamit nila. Okay, kung minsan rubber bullet, mga ganun. So yung hindi mamatay yung target. Yun yung kapag sinabi nilang kailangan buhay yung target. Yan, ano ang gagamitin nilang ammunition? Yung mga rubber bullet. Okay? So yun yung yung ibang rules or major rules sa CQB drill o kaya battle. Okay, CQB or exercise, I should say. So close quarter battle exercise. Yan, that is CQB. So yan. So dito tayo sa two-man room clearing. So everything we do in CQB built of two-man room clearing. Okay, so yan. One man provides security of the breach point and enters the room in the path of least resistance. Okay, so pagpasok mo sa isang room, so yung first man provides security of the breach point and enters the room. Okay, so siyempre kapag binuksan yung pinto, so yan, yung first man provides security of the breach. Yan. Point and enters the room. So pag bukas ng pinto, papasok agad yung first man and point and enters the room in the path of least resistance. So saan ba yung least resistance? Okay? So doon sa kung papasok kayo kung yung pintuan or yung tawag doon, yung kung yung pintuan ay nag-open ng right, doon ka sa left pupunta. O yung barrel mo o yung muzzle ng baril mo ay naka-point muna doon sa left part. Okay? So doon nandun yung least resistance. Kumbaga, siyempre kapag yung mga hostage taker ay nandun mostly sa likod ng pintuan. Okay, yung part sa likod ng pintuan kasi mas hindi sila masyadong masyadong nakikita doon. Okay, so yun yung target mo. Yung first man. And the second man breaches or opens the door and goes in the opposite direction of the first man. So kapag kapag nabuksan na sira na yung yung pintuan, yan the second man papasok o pupunta opposite direction of the first man. So sa kabila naman siya. Yan. And each man's sector extend from the corner to 1 meter of the muzzle of the other man's weapon. Okay, yun. So, siyempre, kapag hindi lang naman yung direction ng mata mo, direction ng muzzle, ng baril mo, ay iisa lang. Siyempre, ilipat mo rin 1 meter. Yan. Or extend from the corner to 1 meter of the muzzle of the other man's weapon. So, yun. So, maganda sana kung may ano tayo, no? May tawag doon, may drill or exercise o nandito kayo sa ano sa face to face para may ano tayo, may exercise din. No. Siguro hindi naman kailangan ng baril, mga stick pwede na. So 2-man, 3-man at saka yung 4-man. Okay. So ito yung ano yung mga simulation o kaya direction ng example ng 2-man room clearing, yan. Yung number 1 man, yung first man, yan, pagbukas ng pintuan, papasok siya sa yan dito sa may left. Then extend the muzzle of the gun 1 meter to the next. Yan, mamaya iyan natin. So next, yan, yung 1 meter. Kapag yung direction mo nasa left, yan, pagpasok mo pumunta ka sa left, yan, siyempre walang tao dyan. Pero wag kang ano, tatanga-tanga dyan. Yan, then agad-agad na ilagay mo rin yung muscle mo dun direct dun sa may kabila. So to protect the second man. Okay? Yan. The same, pagpasok ng second man, yan. The second man, pagpasok niya, yan, doon din sa'yo. Okay, 1 meter. Diba? So yan yung direction, yung may arrow. Okay, yung first man is the red, second man, yung blue, yan. Then, yan, direction sa, ano, sa likod ng pintuan, yung second man, then 1 meter. Yan, 1 meter na naman, yan. Sa may muscle ng first man. Okay, then the third man, yan, pasok ulit sa tabi ng window, di ba? Sa tabi ng door, I should say. Then 1 meter na naman doon sa left and right. Okay, then pagpasok niya, papasok ulit ng fourth man. Yan, 1 meter again doon sa left and doon sa tapat ng door. Okay, so yan, ito yung ano, ito yung kung saan nasaan yung ano yung mga tao, yung mga trainees, example. Okay? Or student or yung mga assault persons. Yan. So yan yung mga direction ng muscle, 'di ba? So diyan, syempre hindi naman isa-isa na ano papasok diyan. Agad-agad once na pumasok yung isa, agad-agad hindi naman pwedeng magsabay. Okay? Pag sumabay yan, pag may mga target o kaya may mga baril yung mga target, patay ka diyan. Okay? So lalo na pag may pinagtataguan sila dito sa room. Okay? So dapat pag once na pumasok yung isa, agad-agad pumasok yung isa para magprotektahan sila. Okay? 'Di ba? So medyo mahirap din yung trabaho ng mga ano, example yung mga SWAT, yan sa mga PNP. So lalo na pag nasa building, nasa isang room, okay, nasa rooms yung ano sa hagdanan, yung mga nila. Yan. So so ito yung mga number of weapons per sector. Yan. So siyempre 1 is the red. Yan, yung 2 ito, number 2. Yan. 2, 3. Yan. And 4 yung yellow. So may kanya-kanyang direction yung nila, yung mga baril, yung tingin, mga ganun, para maprotektahan nila yung isa't isa at makita nila yung buong sulok ng room. Kasi siyempre kung isa lang yung yung pumasok diyan at nandito yung kalaban, siyempre hindi niya agad-agad na makita yun kasi dito siya pumasok. 'Di ba? O kaya pag diretso na niyan, hindi naman pwede na diretso lang siya. Okay? So siyempre kailangan din ng kasama. Okay? So mahirap kapag one man lang. Okay, so dito nag-prepare ako ng isang video kung saan video ng assault exercise ng CQB kung saan one man assault kumbaga. So dito dino-demonstrate kung paano yung mga steps, yan, yung steps kung paano i-assault yung isang room, ganyan. Okay? Room o kaya yung mga sa loob ng building mismo. So demonstration lang to. Okay? So yan. So dali lang. So panoorin niyo to para pag-aralan din at i-obserbahan kung paano yung ginagawa nila. Siyempre, ang mga to nag-practice o nag-training yung mga gumagawa nito. So, yan. So, ito. Okay? Yan.
I will approach the narrow angle. I will stop. I will orient, check to the back. I will listen to the environment. Do I want to clear this room? Yes, I want to. I will start working with the apex of the threshold. My feet, gun, and eyes are synchronized with the threshold. I will snap the 90 degrees. I will continue to slice, I will attack the corner as soon as I decide that it's enough for me. And as soon as I will attack the corner, I will give a quick check to the back to make sure that everything is fine. Or in this case, I have to deal with the door, and so on and so on. All right, so we talked about different types of room shapes in CQB. We talked about different type of entry angles. Now that you're aware about the danger and you're aware about the terrain that we have in CQB and that there is a lot of geometry into it, I want to talk really quick about the angles that are in play and their relevance, okay? Before we go into the team level tactics, we start with the one-man tactics, okay? Which means the individual working alone. Now, I know in the military and in the police, we always say there is no chance that you will work alone, right? It's always like you're working with someone or with a bigger team, you will never work alone. However, in reality, there will be situations which you will have to work alone. Can someone give me maybe an example? What do you think?
Maybe you get sucked into room structures.
For example, for example, I'm clearing a room and I'm with my entire team and we're dealing with civilians, which is, it adds to the difficulty of situations, and then someone recognizes, oh, well, I got that small door over there that is threatening my team, but no one is addressing it because we missed it. So in these small moments of time and place, you'll see people clearing small fractions of structures alone. Okay, and this is why it's important to understand how can I do it alone and efficiently. Or for example, in a situation where you have a disconnection, you lost the rest of your team. Or in moments when you are injured, you're behind, and now you have to work alone because your partner just got killed. Okay, so there are many situations where you have to work alone. Okay, so right now you will get that concept. How can I work alone? And in our system, that concept, that this one-man room clearing is fitting perfectly into the 2-man, 3-man, and 4-man, because in the end, the appointment work in different contexts is fairly the same. Make sense? Good. So we'll go through it. Is there any questions regarding what we're doing? Context. When we're doing the next demonstration, we will work only on one room with an open door, worst case conditions, okay? We can start simple, and to the point. Okay? Good. Let's go. Okay, when I was in the military, I had, let's say, in the beginning, a little bit of a hard time to understand all of the numbers and angles in play. And at some point, my team leader came and he took this measurement tool and he was slapping it on a box-shaped sketch on a wall. Now, from the moment that he did it, there was a set of angles which was visible for me. And he basically gave me the following principle. You want to be able to fight with what you can see and not what can see you. Or in other words, imagine that in every one of those blue angles, one person can stand with a gun and shoot a door. Meaning, if I'm gonna run through the door and I'm standing here, I am committing myself to a set of angles which I cannot handle equally. Make sense? Good. Therefore, we want to fight only with what we can see. The problem is, however, is that if I'm standing here, there is a big difference between this angle to that angle. Not only in terms of what I can control in different positioning on my side, but also in terms of the threat mobility. Okay? People tend to work differently if the sofa is positioned here or there, or if there is a door here, and so on and so on. So what we will do right now is, I will give you definitions and terminology in relation to these angles. This will be consistent tomorrow, meaning we will work a lot with these definitions. Okay? Good. All right, before we start really quick, what are the name of the angles we have in CQB, in room clearance? Narrow. What else? 45, 90, 150, 180. Okay. What we'll do is the following. I will start breaking down first the position. What am I doing in every angle? And from there, slowly, I will build on top of it the tactic itself. What do we achieve? What are the dangers? And so on and so on. Make sense? Perfect. Okay. All right, let's break down these angles. All right, so the first angle that we have is the very first exposure, and that is what we call the narrow angle. It may vary in your size or in the frame size, but primarily it represents the very beginning of exposure into the room. What if there is a closed door? Well, if we open a door, then we can see it, okay? Narrow angle, very, very thin exposure into the room, okay? Good. This angle is very good in terms of fixing certain stoppages or bailing out to, or turning in situations where I'm standing here and I need to extract myself and so on and so on. This is the beginning of everything. So the narrow angle is basically this. As soon as I'm approaching the door, and let's say I'm just walking normally, at some point, of course, when the door is open, I will see a very narrow, a very thin exposure into the room. In this case, I can see the hinges of the door, and I can see slightly beyond the door, and that already allows me to understand that 1, my exposure starts, 2, I can already start cheating the angles and look what's happening inside that room. Is there smoke coming out? Is there blood stains? And so on and so on. Make sense? Good. Right here, right now, from the moment I see that small angle, I'm in the narrow angle. This is the very beginning. Now, since we're in a one-man room clearing context, what we normally teach guys to do in the narrow angle is to stop, bring the gun down, breathe, look to the back, and look back to the door. What basically we want individuals to do is to do a quick orientation check. 1, I want to understand whether I really want to take this room. For example, if I hear 3 people talking inside this room, what does it mean for me? From a tactical perspective? I'm unable to handle this room, right? Good. Second, by stopping here and breathing, I'm preparing myself for the possibility of a threat. And second, I'm able to do a quick back check, making sure that I'm on the right place where I want to be, and that above all, no one else is flanking me or whatsoever. So for example, if I'll be here and I'll see a shadow, I will be able to get away from that room and prioritize that shadow, and so on and so on. Make sense? Perfect. Let's talk about the body. As soon as I'm on the narrow angle, I am shifting my legs from here all the way to the wall. So my hips are going to the wall. The reason for that is as following. 1, better exposure management. Second, more cover or actually concealment. And 2, I am setting my body into a synchronization with a threshold. So basically what I'm doing is not only that I'm getting the rest of my body behind cover, but my leading feet is going to point to the threshold. My gun will point to the threshold, and my eyes will point to the threshold. One line of exposure. From here, it will be much more easier for me to handle the exposure and mobility. Go on that angle, 45 degrees, and just slide here towards this angle, right here. Can you see my fit? Good. If I will train guys to slice like this, if you will recognize, as I'm slicing, that leg is already coming faster into the light, correct? Now, watch this. If I'm changing the fit, put that light again, I'm out of that line. Not only this, it's much more easier to manage this exposure, and furthermore, I don't need to focus on it too much because I can feel where my fit is. Make sense? Last point, the mobility itself. My fits right now are preparing me for combat. I can run faster, I can move faster, and above all, and the most important, I can bail much faster from here if something happens. Make sense? Perfect. Okay, narrow angle, orientation check. I can stretch my head out if I want to. Look to the back, everything is fine. I want to work. From the moment I decided I want to work, my gun is going down slightly, not too much. I still need to see the flash hider, and from here I can start slicing. Pay attention to my feet. Everybody see this feet over here? It's pointing to the threshold. This is the leading feet. Everybody see that feet over here? This is the tailing feet.
2-man, 3-man, at saka 4-man. So yung steps, yung mga
one leg push,
process,
one leg pushes. Okay, and from here I'm starting to work and work and work. Then we have what we call the 45 degrees. The 45 degrees, as you can see, allows a person to communicate with the flank of the room while being concealed to the rest of the room, okay? Meaning that right now, even if someone is standing here, he cannot see that person at all. But in the same time, that person over here is able to scratch information which he can prepare himself to. For example, can everybody see the door over here? At this point, he can stop and he can say to himself, well, you know what, I have a door over there. If it's an open door, I can bring up the shield guy, whatsoever. He can still solve and address this problem from outside without dealing with the next issues. The reason why I'm changing the fit, and for example, I'm not slicing like this, like for example in the shooting range, you'll see a lot of guys slicing like this, the doors, because I used for shooting range positions, or like this, is because I want to maximize the concealment behind the threshold. Okay, in CQB I have no cover, I have only concealment in the end, okay? Because now you can see me, now you can't see me. Okay, makes sense? Good. By having my gun now all the way down, and again, it's not all the way down, it's still within the low ready context, I'm able to manage my exposure, and there will be no chance that my gun will be exposed like it is now to the next angle, because right now the 60 degrees and 90 degrees can see my flash hider coming, which is, by the way, what is the result here? What will be the tactical issue if someone can see that part coming? I will trigger the room and I will trigger the next angles, which means automatically the next angles will have an advantage. Make sense? That's the reason why the gun is down. We will get back to that later. Then we have the 90 degrees. The 90 degrees is an angle that allows me to see the center of the room, which normally this is where people will be normally standing at, unless we already started to fight with them. In the 90 degrees, my body posture is relatively comfortable, it's simple. There is a big difference, however, between weak side to strong side. But long story short, my focus is becoming to the center of the room. This area is coming a little bit out of my peripheral view. And I want to address it again that even though people always talk about the fatal funnel as a deadly thing and that we should never stand in the middle of the door, I want to again highlight it that even if he stands right here, no one in this area can see him at all. And this person is able right now not only to divide the room into two parts as controlled and uncontrolled, but still he can prepare himself to the next issue. So for example, in a police context, if an officer for the first time of his life just shot someone over here, instead of running and doing it and overloading himself, he has time here to engage the threat, to identify him, whatever, perhaps eliminate him, breathe, get back into control, and then continue to clear the room while not being exposed to the next problems. So I will approach the door, I will stop at the narrow angle. The narrow angle will allow me to see a very thin exposure into the room. That exposure will not allow me to see the corner of the room, but it will allow me to scratch a little bit of information outside of the room. At this point, I will stop and I will do what we call the orientation check. down, I will look really quick on the threshold, I will breathe, I will listen. Why do I want to listen? Okay, if I hear 3 people speaking Arabic inside, and probably, maybe I cannot clear that room, or perhaps I want to bail out, okay? In addition, I will also look to the threshold and look to the back for any case. It could be I missed my target, it could be that I picked now information which I missed before, and so on and so on. From here, I will bring down the gun, as we talked, hips towards the wall, leading feet points to the threshold, to the apex. My gun, the muzzle, is pointing to the threshold but lowered, and my eyes are above the gun, synchronized with the apex. From here, leg pushes leg. Everybody see it? That's all. Now I can see clear into the room. I can do a shoulder check if needed to. What angle is coming now? 90, right? Small tip. It comes a little bit with feeling, but as soon as you're approaching the 90s, take it in one step. The reason for that is that we found out that between the 60 degrees to the 90, it is a very, very tricky angle that allows the threat often to see your gun. Always, also if you will be like this. So what we say is as soon as you start to isolate the 90 degrees, take it in one movement. Make sense? Good. As soon as I take it in one movement, I don't have to bring the gun up. It depends what you prefer to do. I have the 90 degrees. It's a meaningful angle, therefore I will stop. Shoulder check, everything is fine, and I will continue to slice. Next angle that we have really quick and dirty is the 150. In Israel, we also refer to it as 45. We call it 150 because of the following reason. We want to highlight that, for example, if I'm coming from this area, the more I'm opening the room, the higher the number goes. And the higher the number goes, the higher the danger goes, okay? Due to the following reason. Even though it's still an angle that allows me to see a flank of a room, the person here is losing control on that area. It brings several problems that we will demonstrate tomorrow, but long story short, this area over here, the previous 45, is out of control. That means if someone is going to come through the door, not only that he will not be able to see it, but if there will be additional team members over here, they will not be able to address it, okay? So it's fragile. As you can see, past the 90 degrees, my leading feet, my gun, and my eyes are on one line which is synchronized with the apex of the threshold. And apex, I remind you, is the edge of the object we're working with, whether it's a cover or concealment. Make sense? Good. Weapon goes down. Here comes a really, really, really important point. Compress the weapon up a little bit too. You see what I did with the stock? This is really important. Why? Because in other rooms, you will see that the threshold won't be so deep. It might be a little bit thinner, which means if I will slice like this, the next corner or the next angle will be able to see my gun coming. Therefore, here, we compress the weapon by bringing the stock up. Am I slower now or faster? I'm still faster, I can shoot. I don't even need to go through the sight. And why? Because point shooting. Okay, so it still works. All right, let's continue. Then we have the final angle, which is the 180 degrees, which is the hard corner, basically taking the corner. Slicing, slicing, slicing. Next phase is isolating the corner. I am trying to cheat the angles and see as much as possible from outside before committing to the next angle. And eventually I will isolate, 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 isolate. And as soon as I can, I will attack the corner. As I attack the corner, the gun goes out, my feet goes in. I see everything is fine. Shoulder check. If someone will trigger my attention, I can flinch out. Or if I see someone running to me with a knife, whatever, I will flinch out, and so on and so on. What is important, however, to understand is that the feet has to go inside a little bit, flat on flat, be stable. So if something happens, I can go out, okay? Small tip. If you will be with your legs outside and you will lean too much into the room, you can fly into the room, which happened to you, right? So don't do it. All right, quick summary. I will approach the narrow angle. I will stop. I will orient check to the back. I will listen to the environment. Do I want to clear this room? Yes, I want to. I will start working with the apex of the threshold. My feet, gun, and eyes are synchronized with the threshold. I will snap the 90 degrees. I will continue to slice, continue to slice. I will attack the corner as soon as I decide that it's enough for me. And as soon as I will attack the corner, I will give a quick check to the back to make sure that everything is fine. Or in this case, I have to deal with the door, and so on and so on. Okay, so we isolate the rest of the problems. Right now we focus on this. Are there any questions?
What about snapping at 90 degrees?
Okay, let's do a quick rundown regarding this thing. So the reason why we teach guys to jump from, let's say, the 60 degrees to the 90 degrees, whether with a gun up or just like this, is for two main reasons. One, from our perspective, as long as we have local surprise, if someone will be occupying the room and he's not aware about my presence, or at least my, let's say, tactical presence, he will probably be in the center of the room. So if I'm able to catch him, surprise him, and have already a gun on him and control him already, better, right? Because I'm proactive. Second, remember this 60 degrees, 90 degrees issue that we have with the flash hider that is get exposed a little bit before? So if we teach it by default, guys, that as soon as they recognize that the 90 degrees is coming to make it one jump, and as you can see, I'm perfectly synced with my concealment, it will prevent, by default, the possibility of the simple individual fucking up with the exposure, okay? So for example, what we see often is that guys are coming around the concealment and they're creeping around like this. You see it? You can already see how my barrel goes into the room to the next angles, which I cannot see. Okay? However, if I'm coming from here, and then I'm gonna just jump and get the 90 degrees, maybe I jump two angles at once, but I just surprised, okay? So, in order to prove that it actually works, what we will do is the following. You will take a phone camera, okay? You will be in a low-ready position on the 90 degrees. It's like a gun, it's like a pistol, whatever. And I will try to attack you from the 90 degrees. As soon as you see me, doesn't matter what, you will try to get a picture. Let's see who was faster in terms of having a gun on the thread, okay? So, for example, I want you to shoot me with the camera of the phone as soon as you see any part of my gun, okay? Good. You ready? So you can see me? Yep. Yeah, you can see me now, right? I can't see you anymore. This is a typical issue with guys on the 60 degrees that they're coming around the corner. It takes them time until they can see you. Let's do the snapping the 90s, okay? What I showed you before. Again, new definition, snapping the 90s. All right. Okay, I wasn't able to see him. Now we'll do it the correct way. Okay, so let's see how it was. So as you can see, the only thing he was able to film was a very small part of my body, but I was already behind concealment with a gun on him. I was able to identify him, and I was proactive and he is reactive. So if we learn it by default to do that, your level of competence is much higher, as well as survivability. Clear? Makes sense?
Yeah.
Makes sense for everybody? Perfect. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Eli. But you're now standing a long time in the door frame, like in a fatal funnel.
All right. So what bothers you, like the exposure?
At the time I'm standing in the frame and not doing anything.
Okay, you're all familiar with fatal funnel, right? Fatal funnel means what? In few words, you can tell me? Fatal funnel?
It's the thinking that all the fire is coming through the door.
Right, theoretically it would mean that anyone who stands in a door will die because a lot of bullets will fly to the door, right? It's true in relation to dynamic entries, because in dynamic entries everybody run already through the door, which means we trigger the room. In a slice entries, it's the opposite way around. Actually, fatal funnel doesn't exist unless there is a fatality. For the very simple reason. If I'm on a 90 degrees and you two, which is a perfect example, are standing here, you can't see me, correct? You can't see me. Okay, even if you will run towards me because I'm all the time working with the apex of the threshold, half of my body is behind concealment. We can argue it's a cover, but I don't care. I'm calling it concealment, but I'm out of picture for you. So even if you will start shooting, I still have the possibility to bail out. Now, fun fact, and we can prove it, and again, human behavior, as soon as you will hear a loud explosion or you will see something that you will feel absolutely threatened by, what will be your natural reaction? Bail out, right? Flinch. So if right now you communicate with me this angle and you already see a very small part of my body, but I can still shoot you, and let's say you will surprise me, by nature I will do this movement. Can you see me? Not at all. Okay, so that's why we do it. So fatal funnel technically doesn't exist. Make sense? Good. Are there any questions?
Yeah, if you conquer the 90, why you don't use the momentum and rush into the room like the normal dynamic thing we do in the past?
So there is a variation in the past when we used to do it and actually teach it, which I don't do it anymore. It basically doesn't hold against force and force. And above everything, it just doesn't make sense anymore. Why? Because you basically collide dynamic with slice entries, okay? So if you're standing at 90 degrees, right? And from here, you will literally run into the room. You were defeating the purpose. I just now expose myself to the rest of the room, which has the highest probability to have a threat. Because if until here I didn't encounter no one, and from here I decide to run into the room, I'm committing myself to an entire set of angles with the highest probability of having someone there. Make sense? Good. So therefore, except for very specific situations, as soon as I will get a 90, I will continue to work. Also, training-wise, it's much more easier for you, because then you don't have to learn how to run faster, how to do this, how to do that. Everything repeats itself. In the end here, it's a very consistent work of a few simple principles, and that's it. Make sense? Perfect. Are there any questions? No? All right. All right, let's go through this video really quick. It's merely for the purpose of visualizing the angles we just talked about. Right now you have a team approaching from the left side. So this will be the first angle. Is this a 45 or narrow angle? Narrow. That's narrow. It's very thin. Normally, if we are very honest, it will not allow you to see the corner, but it will allow you to scratch it. Tip, we're always looking for hands. Why? Because if someone is going to hide or hold a weapon or something, normally it will stick out a little bit, okay? And you will be able to see the hands. From here, we will have the next general angle, and that will be the 45. Everybody can see the MP5? Perfect. That means if right now I need to deal with that person behind the closet, nothing can see me behind the wall. Even if something will come to me, he will need to come to me. He will need to come into the doorway, which is more comfortable for me rather than having someone behind me running into me. Okay, let's say I engage them. I have now time to prepare myself mentally and continue. Okay, 90 degrees exactly. As you can see, the room is divided. Depends a little bit how deep the room is. But long story short, the room is divided. Everybody can see now the level of complexity here. I have dead spaces here. Also, I have a woman over there, which maybe I need to handle in terms of come to me, or she's freaking out or whatsoever. If I need to handle her in terms of identification or profiling, I still can do it.
Okay, so yan yung video natin. Okay? So I hope na may natutunan kayo dyan sa video na yan, sa one-man assault. Yan. So yung mga positions, yung mga steps, okay, yung mga angles, yung kung saan papasok. Okay, so yun yung mga kailangan natin natandaan. Okay, so napaka-importante yung mga position natin, yan, yung presentation na tinatawag, kung paano natin gagawin yung isang bagay, okay, especially sa CQB, okay, yung sa my close quarter battle. Okay, so yan, so sa module nyo nandiyan yung CQB malfunction drill, yan. So pag ito yung yung pag malfunction yung first man, yan, nag-malfunction yung baril na example, kaya may diferensya, o kaya tawag doon yung may yan. Okay? Window clearing, yan, stairway clearing, yan, judgmental firing and individual assault. So laging tandaan yung pag nag-assault kayo, so iwasan din natin yung discriminate firing, yung yung mga explosive, yan. So yun nga, nasa rules yan, no fire, no no gun, no shoot na tinatawag. Okay, so that's all. So maraming salamat. Oo nga pala sa module nyo yan. Yung mga activities kailangan na masagot. So lagi nating pinapaalala yan kasi may mga nagpapas na hindi nasagot lahat. So sagutin nyo yan. So since na shorten naman na yan, yan, kailangan nasagutin nyo lahat. At basahin nyo rin yung module nyo, hindi agad-agad na pupunta sa mga activities o kaya sa mga requirements. Basahin nyo yan kasi yung mga activities na yan, nandyan yung sagot. Okay, so that's all. Maraming salamat and God bless.